Tommy's Nightmare Abuse. Written by Arlington Roth. Copyright 2018. Arlington Roth. Let us begin. My name is Tommy Sirocco. I am 14 years old. I was horribly abused by a 28-year-old woman who used to be my 7th grade teacher. Before it all began, I was just a normal kid like everyone else. I liked playing video games. I enjoyed collecting baseball cards. I liked fishing and football and just hanging out with my buddies and acting silly. We never talked about girls or sex. I never thought about sex. I knew what it was because I learned about it at school in sex ed. But I was told it was something only married people were allowed to do. So I never thought about it. One time, I caught my brother looking at naked pictures of women on his computer, and I told my parents. They kicked him out of the house and I moved into his room. Another time, this cousin of mine, Robert, same age as me, showed me a video on his phone of him putting his thing into his girlfriend's thing. I told my parents and they called the police. He is now in juvenile hall until he turns 21. Anyhow, when I was in the 7th grade, I went to Benedict Arnold Middle School. My teacher's name was Mrs. Reynolds. I got along great with her. She was nice and kind and helpful. I had trouble with multiplying fractions and she would spend time with me after school helping me to learn. One day, she showed me a bunch of t-shirts she had designed. They were all pretty good. One of them had a picture of my favorite singer, Justin Bieber. She asked if I had any suggestion for improvements. I pointed out a few things and she seemed really pleased I had told her. By the end of the school year, it was coming up to summer, and she asked me for my cell phone number so she could send me some pictures of new t-shirts and get my opinion. I did not see any problem with this and I gave it to her. I think she sent me pictures of t-shirts about 3 times that summer. One time she texted me and asked if I wanted to help her wash her car. I said sure and we washed it at one of those self-serve jet spray places and then had a burger at McDonald's. I remember she kissed me goodbye. I thought it was kind of weird, but then again, she was kind of like a friend. It did not feel like she was a teacher because she was not my teacher anymore. She was just a nice lady. And then in October she texted me one Friday night and asked if I wanted to see a late-night movie at the local cinema. I told her I was not allowed out of the house after 9 o'clock, and it was like 10:45. She asked me if there was any way I could sneak out. So I snuck out my window and met her around the corner from my house, and we went to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And when we were there, she put her arm through my arm and rested her head against my shoulder. She told me she liked me and asked me if I liked her. I said yes. And then she started to unzip my pants but I stopped her. I said, "What are you doing?" And she said I would like it. And I said I did not want my penis exposed in public. And she laughed and said, "All right then. Let's go back to my car." And I thought she meant she wanted to take me back home. And so we got back to her car and she immediately starts trying to unzip my pants. She seems really happy and sweet, and so I let her. I do not know why she wants to. She grabs my penis and puts it in her mouth and begins sucking it. After like 5 minutes she asks me, "Can't you make it hard for me? Don't I excite you?" And I don't know why, but I started thinking about the time I saw my dad get out of the shower and next thing I know, my penis is very hard and stiff. This makes Mrs. Reynolds very happy. I continue to think about watching my dad dry himself off with a towel and all of a sudden my penis began shooting massive gallons of white cream. Mrs. Reynolds squealed with delight. I seemed to have made her happy and this felt good. But I am not sure I liked the experience. Pretty soon, she was texting me every night, and sending pictures of her naked boobs, and asking me to sneak out my bedroom window. I would meet her around the corner and we would drive behind the IGA grocery store, over by the dumpsters. and she would take out my penis and make it ejaculate oceans of white, clumpy cream. About the 9th time we got together, she was wearing a dress. She was sucking on my penis and stopped before I was ready to shoot my load of hot cream. She then pulled up her dress and spread her legs. She was not wearing any panties. I looked at her vagina and my heart started pounding. She asked me with a smile if I would like to rub it or maybe even kiss it a little. And I think I went into an anxiety attack because my heart started racing really fast and I was gasping for breath. And then I started vomiting. I vomited all over myself, and started crying. Mrs. Reynolds pulled her dress back down and took me home. I snuck back in through my bedroom window. As I went from my room to the bathroom to get cleaned up, my mom stopped me and asked me what was wrong. That is when I broke down and told her how I had been horribly abused by Mrs. Reynolds. I showed my parents the texts she had sent me when she asked me to sneak out. I told them what she had done to my poor penis. They called the police and the police came over and interviewed me. I told them about my torture and misery. I told them how she gave me New York City diesel marijuana after my stash had run out and I did not have any money to buy any more. I told them she had showed me her vagina and asked me if I would like to touch it, or maybe even kiss it. And I told them how I got sick and puked all over myself. One of the police officers asked me if I was homosexual. I thought that was a pretty weird, if not totally inappropriate thing to ask me, but I said no. Of course not. And then he asked me if I had ever played games with girls. Games like Post Office, and Doctor's Examination, and Stink Finger Delight. And I laughed and said I was a normal guy like everyone else my age. I did not play with girls at all. I asked him, "What is Stink Finger Delight?" And he laughed. He said never mind. He asked me if Justin Bieber was my favorite singer. I said of course. He is everyone's favorite, ain't he? And then they asked to see the texts on my phone. I told them she had also sent naked photos. They said they needed to keep my phone for a while until their investigation was complete. When they left, I went to bed and had nightmares all night long. I have been having nightmares ever since. What that woman did to me was appalling. I will never be the same. It is going to take a lot of money to help me get the help and healing I so desperately need. She was twice my age and should have known better than to have fun with someone who is too young to understand how wrong it is to have sexual pleasure under the age of 18. I hate my life.